On today's Locked On Senators, it's game day. The Sens begin a 3-4 on the West Coast in Anaheim, and based on today's action, we're going to take our best guess at who's actually going to be in the lineups.
And Steve Staios made his first trade as GM of the Ottawa Senators, Vladimir Tarasenko to the Florida Panthers, but the return is underwhelming.
We'll get into all that and who could be next on today's edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 996 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. You can follow the show on social media. We're at Sens Central on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available on all podcast platforms, including on YouTube, where we say hello and let you know that a like, comment, and subscription go a long way to helping the show grow. Make sure that notification bell is on. We've already put up a 20-minute trade reaction video immediately after finding out that Vladimir Tarasenko was moved to the Florida Panthers. We'll get into that trade and more. Today is Wednesday, March 6th, and Pilsy, Ottawa opened the floodgates for the entire NHL. I feel like I have to timestamp at these moments. It is 2 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, and my goodness, since the Tarasenko trade, I think we've seen 4 more.
Yeah, this is wild. Did someone accidentally tell the GMs that today is trade deadline day? Like, Ross, this is a day where my right hand index finger is already tired from hitting refresh on Twitter because the trades that are happening are absolutely crazy right now. But let's stick with the Ottawa Senators trade. If you haven't already, go check out our immediate trade reaction video to this, but we're going to touch on the Tarasenko move a little bit more here as well. We've had a little bit more time to sit on it now, Ross, and I think Sens Twitter is divided. I guess first, if people haven't watched the video or haven't seen the trade, we should tell everyone what the trade is. Vladimir Tarasenko to the Florida Panthers, 50% salary retained by the Ottawa Senators in exchange for a third-round pick in 2025 from the Florida Panthers and a conditional 2024 fourth-round pick. That condition being, if the Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup, that pick is turned into a third-round pick, but in 2026. So essentially, you're trading Vladimir Tarasenko as a rental, 50% retained, for at best 2 third-round picks years from now. Not this year's draft, but 2025 and hopefully 2026. Yikes.
Big time yikes. And it's unfortunate because now we've seen Sean Walker get traded for a first-round pick without any qualms. And, well, we'll get how that rumor might actually affect the Ottawa Senators down the road. But first-round picks are moving around right now. And that's what's also unfortunate because we're seeing everything go on around the league, but Ottawa's kind of caught here in the situation that they are, where Vladimir Tarasenko is the only player who has moved today, and we can get into a list of all the transactions, although it might be growing by the time you listen to this. And it's just like, yeah, he had ultimate say of where he was going to play, and you don't have to be a capologist to know that the Florida Panthers simply did not have draft picks. They don't have a first this year, next. They don't have a second this year. It's just a bit underwhelming. And that's the way it goes. But I guess you kind of have to look at it as Steve Staios doing the best with what he got. And Ottawa's had a long history of sending players to their preferred destinations. And I don't think this one can be clumped in with all the others based on the fact that he simply had a no-move clause. For all we know, Tarasenko could have gone to the team and said, look, if you're not going to move me to Florida, I'm going to stay here. He, by all accounts, loves the room, loves the guys. It's been a disappointing result. And then he could have just continued. He's playing on the top line to produce and then hopefully gotten his next contract based on that. But he goes to Florida and, you know, like the names that came up, like Alex DeBrincat, they send him to Detroit, preferred destination. Mark Stone wanted to go to Vegas. He gets moved to Vegas. You got even further back in Sens history when you got Mike Fisher got sent to Nashville where Carrie Underwood was. Dion Phaneuf got sent to LA with it where Lisa Cuthbert was working. Like the Senators have done right by their players like that, but fans are kind of feeling like they're a bit of a farm system for the rest of the league. And Pilsy, where I get upset is when you mention, rightfully so, that the odds on that Tarasenko re-signs and ultimately ends up playing against Ottawa in their division for the remainder of his career kind of sucks because I think he became a fan favorite in a short period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And Ross, the issue is it's the old age-old saying, nice guys finish last. Sure, the Ottawa Senators have done right by players, but it's getting them nowhere. They're effectively trading all their talented players for pennies on the dollar consistently year in and year out. And it's one step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Now they're like 8 steps back. It's gotten them nowhere. And yeah, if you're Vladimir Tarasenko, you already have a house in the Fort Lauderdale area, which I can confirm is an awesome area. I was just there. You're going to play in a tax-free state. You're going to have sunshine. You've got a wife and kids already there. Like, it's the perfect scenario. And the Florida Panthers are going to have so much opportunity to re-sign him, and they're going to want someone like that. And I'm sure, Ross, Craig Oster, his new agent, Brady Tkachuk and Matthew Tkachuk's uncle, Brady's probably texting Matthew right now, like, you got one hell of a player coming your way. And that connection, I'm sure, had something to do with it. But I got to think, Ross, that this was a scenario where other teams were in the mix. We heard lots of rumors, Carolina, Edmonton, things like that. But then as soon as Florida was like, you know what, like, this could be a good fit. Tarasenko probably wants to come here and threw their hat in the ring. Tarasenko probably told Craig Oster and they told Steve Staios, we're not going anywhere except Florida. So either call our bluff and I'll stay here and I'll play the rest of the season out, or trade me to Florida for whatever you get. And this is a similar situation to Claude Giroux being traded to Florida. He told them, I'm only going to Florida. Colorado had an offer on the table, apparently, for Claude Giroux. He said, don't bother doing that. I'm not going to do it. I only want to go to Florida. So sure, Steve Staios' first trade as general manager of the Ottawa Senators, terrible return. And by all accounts, like, you cannot, Dreger said, I don't understand why Sens fans are so mad about this. They did pretty well considering the circumstances. Garbage. They did not do pretty well considering the circumstances. However, Sens fans are divided on Twitter. Half of them saying, why even trade him then? Just hold on to him and let him ride the year out. Okay, cool. So you get nothing. That's not great. Nothing is not great. Or you say, okay, we're going to play hardball here. We'll keep you until the deadline and then try to find the trade. Well, at that point, we've seen how quickly the trade market moves. That offer of a third and a conditional fourth might have been off the table by the time Friday comes around because Florida's already had to move on somewhere else. So Steve Staios did what he had to do. It's just so unfortunate that this is the first move he makes and that Sens fans are going to judge him based on this. But Ross, I think it's only fair to say you can't really judge Staios on this. I think the judgment is going to come if and when Jakob Chychrun gets moved.
For more on the Tarasenko trade, check us out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Trade reactions will be individually packaged every time Steve Staios makes the room. Pilsy, that's 1 down, 2 to go for me to win the bet, and still 2 days remaining until trade deadline. So Tarasenko has been moved. Who's next? What's happened in the NHL? And we're hearing a new potential landing spot for Jakob Chychrun per Elliot Friedman. All that, and there's actually a Senators hockey game tonight. So I'll have a game day preview. That's next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Sleeper. Guys, if you guys want to win 100 times your money, you got to try playing daily fantasy hockey on the Sleeper app. But to have a chance at winning big, you got to throw your hat in the ring. You got to play daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper. It's the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. And Sleeper is our top choice for all daily fantasy sports, especially when it comes to hockey. With Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. 100 times, guys. And I love the Sleeper app. They got a group chat function so that you can let all your buddies know you're going to have a big week. And time is money these days, so entries can be made in under 1 minute. you can get them done right before puck drop. With studs all around the league, all you got to do, choose stats like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more. You heard me, Sens fans. 100 times payouts on Sleeper. So start paying attention and get your picks right so you could win big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's Locked On NHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Check it out today, guys. It's Sleeper.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Robinhood. Did you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you a 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boosting every single dollar you transfer in from other retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. This offer is good through April 30th. Get started at robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now, time for some legal info. Claim as of Q1 2024, validated by the Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. All right, Pilsy, here we are, submissive to the chaos of trade deadline. We are 48 hours away, and we might be up to 48 trades, as every time I'm refreshing social media, we're getting more and more major deals across the National Hockey League. The biggest so far today, a 1-for-1 swap between the Buffalo Sabres and Colorado Avalanche. Casey Middlestat is going to Colorado in exchange for Bowen Byram, who Sens fans will always remember as the pick that got away in the Matt Duchene trade, where it was between keeping the 2018 pick, which ends up being Brady Tkachuk. Hindsight looks pretty good on that. And then Bowen Byram got picked with the next year's, where Ottawa actually finished dead last, but then lost the lottery 3 times. So it all evened out in the wash. Pilsy, there's that trade. Sean Walker going with a 5th-round pick to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for Ryan Johansson and a 1st-round pick. That was the subsequent move that was able to open up the cap space to get Casey Middlestat. The Flyers placed Johansson on waivers. You've got a big move for the team that Ottawa's playing tonight as well. But first, your thoughts on that Bowen Byram for Casey Middlestat swap.
I love it. It's a classic hockey deal. And Ross, it reminds me a lot of, ironically, a guy that was involved in a trade as well, but Ryan Johansson for Seth Jones years ago, right? It's 2 teams saying, hey, we got a young, talented player here, but we need a different young, talented player at a different position. Let's make this work. And it's a clean 1-for-1 trade. I don't really see a winner or a loser in that trade. I think it works for both of them, which is great.
I think I see a bit of a confusion, though, for me at least, because Ottawa would be the team that knows this best. You can't have too many lefties. I mean, it could cause problems down the road. And Buffalo right now, Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power, both 1st overall picks. They locked up Matthias Samuelsson to a huge contract, and now they're bringing in another left-hand shot defenseman. So I'm a bit confused by that. Also, Casey Middlestat, they were so patient with him, and he'd been in their system for years. He's finally popping off offensively, and then you move him. It feels like you're selling after so much development, and he's at kind of where you're hoping that he continues to go for the next number of years. So immediate reaction for me is that's a win for the Colorado Avalanche. The West is loading up because look, they already had their top pair. Byram was never going to be on the top pair in Colorado when they've got Taves and Makar, and now Sean Walker is like the perfect secondary right shot piece, so they're able to make up for that in a subsequent trade. But anyways, let's talk about the Philadelphia Flyers. We'll get to the Anaheim trade when we do the game day preview in the 3rd segment, but Philadelphia is an interesting one here because they've moved on from a right shot defenseman. They've acquired a 1st-round pick. Now it is top 10 protected, but I was going to say crazier things have happened, but it would be the wildest thing ever if somehow Colorado had a top 10 pick this year. They're wagon.
Yeah, it would be insane.
What are the chances that first round pick ends up in Ottawa for Jakob Chychrun as a part of a deal?
Ross, if you had asked what are the chances that a different team gets that first round pick for trading Jakob Chychrun, I would have said very high. The Ottawa Senators, Sens fans don't get anything good. We don't get any nice things. Everybody else gets to have those, and we just watch on the sidelines. So I'm not sure. But Ross, interesting to know. David Pagnotta tweeted that Tampa Bay is kicking in on Chychrun too. With it seems like the Noah Hannafin talks are kind of stalling with them, so they've got a plan B there for Jakob Chychrun. So
that guy throws so much at the wall. He's just seeing what sticks, man.
Well, I mean, it makes sense, though. Like, that's something even we talked about, right? If Hannafin wasn't going to work out, Jakob Chychrun would be a great secondary option, especially for Tampa, trying to, replace the loss of Sergachev. Jakob Chychrun would make a lot of sense there. So that's definitely something I could see happening. At least, Ross, you want to get competitive bidding in. We saw what happens when you don't get competitive bidding, when it's only one team in Florida with Tarasenko. So we'll see, because this trade for Steve Staios trading Chychrun is going to be massive. He has to, he basically took a walk on Tarasenko. He's got to hit a home run with Chychrun.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect way to do it. Again, would striking out have been keeping him? I know I fought that battle on our trade reaction video. I get having to move him, get some sort of assets.
And you got a tank, Ross. Like, we are tanking right now. Like,
should we put beside our fire helmets? Should we get like a tank commandeer helmet?
Yeah, we need some military gear now, because it is all about tanking, and you don't want Tarasenko on your team. He's one of the few players that's actually consistent and shows up night in and night out. So if you're trying to lose games, this is a great way to do it. And we'll get to it, Ross, but the Anaheim Ducks also doing a great job of moving out players so that they don't win games. Get excited for Ottawa Senators versus the Anaheim Ducks tonight. Woo!
Get excited for a 1:30 a.m. postcast, because we will be here. We are here every step of the way. Your team every day, and we wouldn't be here without all the great citizens and sponsors that help us keep this tank rolling along. Hey, the draft is setting up to be a ton of fun, though, and the Senators right now, they're stockpiling a few picks. I mean, there's still like some mid picks, but still, at least they got 4 fourth rounders this year. We're gonna be busy in the 4th round, baby. Does that mean we're gonna have to do 150 draft profiles then?
We're going to do a million draft profiles. It's going to be nuts.
The Philadelphia Flyers, though, are a very interesting team for Jakob Chychrun for me, because their prospect pool is pretty good. Yep. They've got draft picks, including this first-round pick they just got. I know Sens fans will point to Oliver Bonk right away. I would say aim lower.
Not going to happen.
Aim a lot lower. If it happened, it'd be great. But I
Name one time, Ross, trade rumors and trades have happened for the Sens, and the players or assets that Sens fans have wanted or kind of predicted happening go the other way. Literally never. Not one time.
Well, Chychrun, we thought Chychrun was a good example of that.
I guess. I mean,
it didn't work out, but at the time,
he wasn't my top priority at the time, though. But
still, we wanted Chychrun, we got Chychrun. We wanted Duchesne, we got Duchesne, and both. Maybe we should stop wanting.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, maybe that's the issue.
But they are an intriguing team, and I think it was Darren Dreger. I'm getting so confused with all the insiders right now, but there was a note made that Jeff Chychrun, I believe it was actually Elliot Friedman, who, if you're going to follow one insider, he's the guy to follow. Jeff Chychrun played for the Philadelphia Flyers, so there's some connections there. And we know the Philadelphia Flyers brass is literally all former Philadelphia Flyers.
Yeah, exactly. And important to note, Ross, the Flyers get Ryan Johansson back in that Colorado deal. He's immediately been put on waivers. So
$4 million this year and next, because Nashville did keep 50%.
I was so surprised by Ross. Like, sure, obviously not the Johansson of his Nashville and Columbus days, but for a team that's trying to make the playoffs, I thought that's a nice third line center you have. Why not deal with him, get rid of him later? So it's gotta lead me to believe that they're doing that to clear the money to make another move here. At least that's me hoping.
I think so. So if Jakob Chychrun is next, also we could see a move with Eric Brandstrom, Mark Kastelik, Dominic Kubalik.
And also, Ross, remember sorry to interrupt, but the Ottawa Senators only have one more salary retention spot since they've retained salary on Tarasenko and are retaining salary on Matt Murray. So if you're looking to move Kubalik, Tarasenko, and Branny, you got to pick one of those guys to retain salary on, and they better use it as a leverage point, because retaining salary on Tarasenko did nothing.
As it stands right now, the Ottawa Senators have 2 first-round picks in this year's draft, either Boston or Detroit's, whichever is lower. Nice negotiating there. 1 second-round pick and 4 fourth-round picks. They own Tampa Bay's fourth-round pick from way back, the Nick Paul Matthew Joseph trade. They own Detroit's from the Alex DeBrincat trade, and now they've got the Florida Panthers, although it upgrades to a 2026 third-round pick, but if they win the Cup.
The hilarious thing about that, Ross, for the if they win a Cup scenario, that means that pick will be 32nd.
No,
the 32nd
no.
pick of that round.
No, because it will be in 2026, so it'll be a couple years later.
Oh, true. Okay, fair. Yes.
Yeah. Because it's anyways. Anyway, you slice it, it's a bit underwhelming. But hey, you guys like actual hockey? Well, why don't we get a game day preview in? Because the Sens and Ducks, they are going toe to toe in the tank off, and we'll get into how funny the Anaheim Ducks lineup is and how the Ottawa Senators one might not be much better. That's all coming up next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Indeed. When you're drafting a fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same with your business team? If you're building a roster to win the championship, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one easy place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills. Do it all with Indeed. You can find top talent fast with Indeed's hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Indeed does all the hard work for you. Kick back and relax. Sponsor a job and boom. Instant Match shows you candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your job description immediately after you post. With Instant Match, you can start hiring fast. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you got to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the Glebe Central Pub. When this week's done, we'll all need to meet at the Glebe Central Pub, because there they've got great food, awesome drinks, and a great atmosphere. They've also got the Sens shuttle going on March 12th for the Pittsburgh game. $17 gets you round trip to and from the Canadian Tire Center. You get to the pub, you have a good time. Sue will get you an hour and 15 minutes before the game. You'll drive down to the CTC, and right where you're dropped off, it's an easy walk right down where the tunnel is in the parking lot, and you get to the game, and Sue will pick you right back up afterwards and bring you back to the Glebe Central Pub. The Glebe Central Pub also has a ton of great live events that they have going on at the GCP, where the vibes are free, obviously. They've got the Six Nations rugby tournament coming up there. They've got the Sens bus, as we talked. They've got wings on Monday, wing night on Monday. Fantastic deals going down at the Glebe Central Pub. So make sure you visit them right in the heart of the Glebe. You can find them at 779 Bank Street. That's 779 Bank Street. The vibes are free at the GCP. All right, Billsy, it is game day for the Ottawa Senators. Can you believe it? It's game day. The Senators, for the first time since Saturday night, will be on the ice. It is a 10 o'clock puck drop. So 10 o'clock start tonight in Anaheim. The Senators, no morning skate today. They did have practice yesterday, and we'll get into some interesting line combinations and moves that the Senators have made. One roster move that was made, Matthew Highmore has been recalled, obviously, in the wake of Vladimir Tarasenko being sent off. I thought Highmore showed all right his first go-around in Ottawa. Not that that's what anyone wants to hear right now, but he's fine. He's fine. And it should be noted, Crooker missed the game today. The Belleville Sens already lost to the Toronto Marlies. We believe he's out with the flu. For people wondering why the Belleville Sens top scorer has not been called up.
But Ross, if people were watching that game, they're probably very confused because the Toronto Marlies have a Crookshank on their team, no relation and different spelling. But I was like, wait, Crooker's not in the lineup, but Footy keeps saying Crookshank. What's going on here? So that was a little weird.
Yeah, that is super, super strange. So we'll see what happens with Belleville and obviously the Ottawa Senators trying to kind of chip away at the rest of the season. Like, it sucks that we're saying this, Pillsy. There's still so many games left, but this is where we're at. Like the Ottawa Senators, though, like they're too far ahead of the Anaheim Ducks. Are they? Do you think that's real? Ottawa's got 2 games in hand right now, and Ottawa's 6 points up on Anaheim.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for us, especially they just traded their first line center and their third line center. The Ducks did, so they're tanking big time here. But Ottawa, if there's a team that knows how to tank, it's the Ottawa Senators. So I believe that they can tank harder. And I mean, they couldn't beat them weeks ago when they were trying to beat them. So this is going to be very fascinating here how this goes. Oh, also, Ross.
Yeah.
Hate to do this to you, but
yeah,
I just saw on Twitter that Troy Terry's not going to play.
Troy Terry's not going to play tonight either. Is that no? They're not trading Troy Terry.
I just see left wing lock. Troy Terry is not expected to be in the lineup for tonight's game.
Really?
I don't think they're trading him, but
just not going to be in the lineup.
Yeah, that's all it says. I don't see anything else on there.
So why don't you run me through the trade that the Anaheim Ducks made today? Because it's a big one and a first round pick's coming their way.
Okay, let me find it here. Do you have it in front of you? I don't have it in front of me.
It's Sam Carrick and Adam Henrique to the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for TBA, but it includes a first round pick. We believe there's a third team there brokering it to get a draft pick as well. So,
and I think there's a 5th conditional draft pick that turns to a 4th if the Oilers win the cup. But that's not going to happen because the Panthers are winning the cup.
I'm not cheering for the Panthers to win the cup.
No?
No, I really don't care about a third round pick in 2026.
I mean, what other rooting interests do we have, though?
We're cheering against Detroit and Boston in round 1.
So the Panthers are going to have to beat one of those teams. Either the Panthers are going to beat, along the way, the Leafs, the Red Wings, or the Bruins. So that's good.
Yeah, that's true. This is so pathetic, dude.
Yeah, it's
I want them to have meaningful hockey. That's really
like Ross. That is even a high bar. I'll lower the bar. I'm so exhausted of being the laughing stock of the league. That's where I'll set the bar at. Is we can laugh at the Sens. It's like the big brother, little brother. Like I can make fun of him, but you can't. But at this point, we got no ground to stand on trying to defend the Sens. They are the laughing stock of the league.
There's no doubt that that's the case. This is the lineup that we expect Ottawa to have tonight in Anaheim. Shane Pinto in between Brady Tkachuk, and I just put Matthew Highmore there because everything else kind of makes sense at practice yesterday. Obviously, Tarasenko was skating there at practice today, so I just put Matthew Highmore there. Of course, this is all very subject to change. Tim Stützle was skating between Drake Batherson and Claude Giroux. Rourke Chartier is so back, and he's playing at center, which I found interesting between Ridley Gregg and Mathieu Joseph, and then Mark Kastlik with Dominic Kubalik and Parker Kelly. The defense, Jake Sanderson with Artem Zub, Thomas Chabot with Jacob Bernard-Docker, and Jakob Chychrun is with Eric Brandstrom. We expect both goalies that started the season and are the 2 goalies with NHL contracts to be in the lineup tonight. They both skated yesterday at practice. Anton Forsberg and Eunice Korpisalo. Mads Sogard is still with the team. My one note on this is, are you surprised Ridley Gregg moving over to the wing after the injury to Norris? We're like, okay, Ridley Gregg's just going to move back at center. Jacques Martin said as much. And now what, 2 games later, he's already back at wing.
Yeah, I am a little surprised at that, Ross. Although, like Rook Charte, that's a guy that Jacques Martin is going to want playing center for this team, and there's no way he was going to elevate Casti or Kubalik again. So I don't know what other options there would be here, but it is weird seeing Ridley Gregg not being given the opportunity to play center. Like in a meaningless season like this, I say toss him in the middle and see what you got there. And if it's not great, you can always move him back to the wing later. So interesting tidbit there for sure.
Who's your locked on player tonight? 10 o'clock start in Anaheim.
My locked on player tonight is going to be number 26, Erik Brannstrom. Ross, I don't know if you saw the Sens tweeted out the game day tweet for this one. And Erik Brannstrom was the cover player for the Sens here. So they're really trying to shine him up here. And look, this is a guy that maybe a trade deadline, $2 million. I don't think the Sens would retain salary on moving him out. He's an RFA with arb rights. I think teams could look at him as an extra depth guy, or teams that maybe even aren't trying to make the playoffs this year look at him as a young asset that they can control for another year, and he's got versatility. So just like we saw Tarasenko get shined up, just like we saw Kubalik, they're trying to shine up. Let's see if they can bring some shine to the short king, Erik Brannstrom. So I'm going to be locked on to him tonight.
I'm going to be locked on to Shane Pinto because I want to see what his game looks like without Tarasenko. Those two had played together for a number of games consecutively right now, and I thought that Shane Pinto looked amazing. I mean, he's got 13 points in his last 12 games. He's a guy who's just been producing, and he looks really good as a top-line center, or I should say just top 6 centerman in the NHL. So I'm going to be really curious to see what that line looks like without Tarasenko. Pillsy, it's a complete joke right now for the Anaheim Ducks. Like, I don't even think we should pull up or go through their rosters because according to Daily Faceoff's fantasy lineups, the Ducks will be without Trevor Zegras tonight, Leo Carlson, Mason McTavish, and Troy Terry.
And then they just traded Henrique and Carrick like that.
So Troy Terry's their best player. Mason McTavish was a top 3 pick. Leo Carlson was a top 3 pick, and Trevor Zegras was 10th overall pick or 9th overall pick, I believe. This is a tank off tonight. There's no other way to put it.
This is going to be such a laughable hockey game. Like we're going to see who the real Sens fans are when we fire up this postcast, Ross, because unless you're an absolute sicko like you and I, you're not staying up late to watch this game.
Guilty as charged, Pillsy. I mean, it's always interesting watching the games that are right around the deadline, though, because you can tell it affects the players, and you understand why. It's a whole life that they're living. For us, it's just names and content. For them, it's like, they're moving their families. They're having to, scramble last minute and get to these new destinations. Now, there is a bit of excitement, I'm sure, for guys like Henrique and Carrick who get to go play in meaningful hockey once again. It's tough, though, to be on the seller side of it once again. I will say, though, Jakob Chychrun is being traded before the deadline. To me, there's no doubt in my mind. So
I sure hope so.
There's no chance he can't play tonight, though, because Ottawa didn't even bring an extra defenseman with them on the trip.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at right now with the Ottawa Senators.
Wait, did they bring, for some reason, I'm thinking they brought up Larson. Did they do that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
And they sent back Gannett after the game against Philadelphia.
True. Oh, also, I wanted to add a bounce back game for Branny here. He played under 10 minutes in the previous game. So let's see him have a bounce back here. That was another note I wanted to put there.
All right, Pillsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me is stick through it, Sens fans. It's been terrible. It is terrible. It's going to continue to be terrible, but we gotta stay together. Misery loves company. Let's stay together. Let's try to find some fun, positive storylines here. And they're without any doubt, we are now in full tank mode again. This is our comfortable spot. This is the warm blanket of our niche that we're used to being in. So just get comfortable. And there's not a lot of room inside tanks. I've never been in one, but it's going to get crammed in there as we've been tanking for a long, long time.
Draft season can't come soon enough, but we also have a great rest of the week of interviews coming up on Locked On Senators. Mark Mathot will be on tomorrow's episode, and then a twofer for you on Friday morning, where we will drop an episode with Senators prospect Vladimir Nikitin. Scored a goalie goal, was the BCHL Player of the Week. Just an awesome moment there. Looking forward to introducing you to him, Sens fans. And then Abby Murphy from the University of Minnesota pulled the slap shot on the empty net, and she just seems like an all-around beauty. So we'll get you those interviews early Friday morning, and then Friday at 3 o'clock, we will have a reset after all the chaos of the trade deadline is over. So stay tuned for all that the rest of the week on Locked On Senators, plus immediate reaction videos after every single trade that the Sens make. Oh, and the postcast, where we will be with you live after tonight's game, tomorrow's game, Saturday's game. We're not going anywhere. 82 games. We got our Iron Man streak going, and we'll continue to have that content for you, and can't wait to see you there and interact where we vent or vibe. For today, though, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been a chaotic edition of the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.